I'm super grateful that you're hopping on today, and I'm excited to continue. We had a great conversation, I think it was back in December, right before the New Year's or before Christmas.
It was.
When I got to be on your podcast. I'd love to introduce you really briefly for folks that are listening. And I'm actually really excited about having you, Brandon, because your life and your work actually proves something that I wholeheartedly believe, which is that every single person is a creative. Every single person. It doesn't matter if you're like, no, I'm a mathematician, I'm a scientist, or I work in construction, or I'm just a coach. Like, you are a podcaster, you own New Vision Projects, which is like a residential and commercial construction business, and you also are launching a coaching business called Trade Up Coaching, where you're helping businesses scale, correct?
Yeah.
Your podcast is called the Open Concept Podcast. You kind of have your hands in a bunch of different areas, and I would totally put you wholeheartedly in the creative bucket, not just in principle, but I would say in work. You're doing a lot of creative work. And yeah, I'd love maybe just to give you an opportunity too, to just share a little bit more for folks that haven't met you, don't know who you are. Just tell me about those three areas of your life and just anything that you feel is relevant to somebody getting to know you for the first time.
You know, you mentioned creative and I various stages over the years, right, throughout my career. I started in construction pretty well right out of high school. And I got into construction by mistake. I say it was by accident, but it was a beautiful accident through a really random series of events. My mom's house had burnt down, and she was living in a rental property at the time, but the place that she was living in had burnt down, and she had to move into some temporary housing while the home was being repaired. And I was helping her move furniture into her house. And the gentleman, the landlord of the home, he was a recruiter for what was at the time the largest construction company here in Canada. And he had said, we just kind of got to talking, and he had said, well, we're looking for strong young men to get involved in construction. Do you want to come down to the office for an interview? And I had said, sure. Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. I didn't have, many other prospects for jobs and careers. And so I went down to the office, and they basically said, here's the paperwork, sign here. And this is when you start here. This is how much we can start off paying you. And it wasn't an interview at all. I was walking in to sign the onboarding papers. And the next...
You already had a job.
I had already gotten a job. And I was like, there was no interview process at all. They didn't ask me a single question. They just thought I was there to sign the paperwork. So it was basically like, hey, sit down. Here's the paperwork. Just need a couple of signatures. You're good to go. We need you here, 6:30 a.m. at this, at this address. And so I wandered on to what was building. They were building a big Canadian Tire and Best Buy building they were just getting out of the ground. And so this is my first time walking onto a construction site. I had no idea what to expect. I didn't own a pair of steel-toe boots. I walked on a job site. I'd bought a hammer and a pouch, and it was all like these brand new, clean, shiny tools. And when you walk onto a job site, you kind of get like eyeballed down a little bit if your tools are a little too clean, which I didn't.
Or your boots or your clothes.
Yeah, so I made it a habit after that of like, if I bought new tools, I got to get them a little dirty, right? Rub them around a little bit, scuff them up so they don't look like they're brand new off the shelf. But that was my introduction to construction, and I started out pushing a broom for the first handful of months. It was about 3-4 months. Pushed a broom, and that was it. Clean up garbage, push broom, head down, blah blah. And then on the 4th month or 5th month, I was given a squeegee. So I graduated from a broom to a squeegee, where I was now moving water, shuffling water off of a concrete slab so that the carpenters could come behind and lay out their walls and people would come and do their work. And somewhere around month 6, I was asked if I would consider starting an apprenticeship, if that was something that I wanted to do. And I had no idea what an apprenticeship was. And they said, well, it's, you go through 4 years of schooling. It's only 6 weeks a year at a time. You work the rest of the time. And at the end of it, you get a certification or a Red Seal certification. I didn't know what a Red Seal certification was, but for the first time in a long time, I felt like somebody had believed in me and believed in what it was that I could do. Going back further than that, I've told my story on the podcast and other podcasts many times. In high school was a bit of a dark time. A lot of depression, very lost, and I had barely graduated, and I didn't know what I was going to do. Parents had separated; they were getting divorced. I was told I had a learning disability. After school learning and care and all this sort of stuff that just imposed this massive sense of insecurity, massive sense of just failure. Right. I felt like my future was really painted for me already by external factors, external people that didn't really know me, but they judged me based on my early adolescence. And that followed me around for a while. And then I got into trades and started finding a place where I could develop confidence. And that's what happened. And there was a few people that believed in me along the way. And that company started handing me more and more responsibility. I went to trade school. I fell in love with math, something that I thought I would never do. Like I would fall asleep in every single one of my grade 10 math class. And I graduated high school with grade 10 basic math, which was the minimum requirement to actually graduate from the high school that I was graduating from. But I went to trade school, fell in love with math because there was a practical application. I understood what made sense. And from there, moved on, worked with them for about 6 years. And in 2010, started my own company, New Vision Projects. And you mentioned creativity, and I got into construction and fell in love with building, right? Like the creating something from nothing, seeing things being built, coming out of the ground, whether it's houses being built or these, big, amazing structures, big commercial buildings. And I didn't know what I was building. I couldn't read plans, but I knew that when I would show up one day, I was told very specifically what to do. I would do that. I would do my part of it. Somebody else would come do their part of it, and the thing would be built. And it was just very cool watching things being built. And that tickled my creative, desire for a while. And then I wanted something more. And I saw where my path was going if I stuck around with this company, which was arguably a very great, comfortable career. I knew a lot of site superintendents that have been around with the company for 20 plus years. I saw where they were and they were making good money, but I was just wanted more. I didn't like it. There was just something about being labeled as this, superintendent or project manager of this company that it didn't really sit well with me.
How old were you about this time?
23. Yeah. So I'm 40 now. I started the company. I guess I was 24 when I started the company. We're in our 16th year of business. And
man, 24 years old.
Jonathan, going back right from never had any money. What construction did for me was awesome. I bought my first home at the age of 22. I was the first kid in my graduating high school class to purchase a home. I bought my second at 23. I had a rental property at 23 with 2 mortgages. I decided I was going to up and leave the company that had given me all of this, given me the security, and go and start something on my own. Maybe I was a little cocky. Maybe, it was maybe not the right time, but the Olympics had come here in Vancouver in 2010, and construction basically shut down for 3 weeks. And I lost my job for a few weeks. And I got the call back afterwards, said, it's time to come back to work. Here's where we want you to go. And I said, thank you, but I'm going to do this thing on my own. That's been on my heart. So that was.
I love that.
Yeah.
Entrepreneurship in general, I feel like is a courageous game, But what a better time in your life than when you're in your 20s and like already your awareness of risk is so low. Like you
Oh,
can fit most of your belongings in a single vehicle, right? Well, it sounds
like
like you
anything.
actually had two homes, two mortgages. But I mean, when I think back to my 20s, yeah, I just always thought the possibility for success was always there. Like I wasn't as guarded as I am now. I'm turning 40 this year with kids, where like everything is a little bit longer of a decision making process. But here
Yeah.
you are, 24, and you're jumping in. That's awesome, man.
Well, and that's the thing. And I figured I could always sell I could always sell the houses if I needed to. Could sell the
Yeah.
property. I had been, I've been in the game for a couple of years in the real estate game. It was like, if I have to sell it, I can. I know that that's not going to be the worst thing in the world. Do I want to? No, because I took some pride in the fact that I had owned these places. I didn't want to lose them, but I knew that that was a possibility. And in fact, in our first year of business, I partnered with a good friend of mine, he's still a business partner to this day. And in our first year of business, we're about 6 or 7 months in. And the way that we would pay ourselves was we would sit down on the carpet. The house that he was actually renting a loft above a garage. And we would finish a project and we'd go back to his place and we'd sit down on the carpet and we would look at the paycheck that had come in, because we just charge for everything at the end of the job, wouldn't collect any deposits. And then we would go through all the receipts and invoices and put them out on the floor and handwrite it out on a piece of paper who we owed money to. And whatever was left over was what we paid ourselves. We split it down the middle, and some months we made money and some months we didn't. And we didn't certainly put away any money for taxes or savings. It was just whatever money we have, like we're gonna pay ourselves. And
Sounds like your 20s.
Sounds like your 20s. Very much not into
Taxes.
Taxes. Fuck them. Yeah. And but I remember going through Quiznos. I went to Quiznos at lunch, my business partner and I, because we'd usually try and have lunch together during most days. And sandwich went through the oven and my debit card was declined. I didn't have a credit card at the time. I had a debit card.
Wow.
I was meant to believe that credit cards were bad. So I avoided for the longest time any sort of credit card, and I would just use a debit card. I didn't have money in my account for the sandwich. It was declined. And I looked over at my business partner and said, this is never going to happen again. And can I also borrow $9 because, it's already through the oven and I'm hungry and, we got to get back to work. And so that day was a big eye opener of never wanting to be back in that position again. Since then, fast forward 16 years, yes, we build homes, we renovate homes. We got an amazing team. We do some land development, real estate development up in the Okanagan, which is about, for anybody listening, it's about 4.5 hours from Vancouver, where I'm recording out of currently today. And it's been an amazing journey. I love everything about construction, home services. It's an industry. It's just a beautiful umbrella that I'm blessed to be under. And then along the way, you start getting that creative itch again and starting want to really share what you have, what you know, what you do with the world. And that was where the podcast came in. And that was something that I wanted to do for a long time. But even getting the podcast off the ground, there's these little barriers that you put in your way, right? Little excuses.
Yeah.
And it was everything because in my head, I was like, I'm not a techie guy. So I don't even know how to do this, which was true, right? The real barrier was I didn't even know how to plug the wires into the computer, get a camera. I didn't know how to upload it. Like, how does it get from the camera then onto the internet, onto Spotify or YouTube and all of these things in my mind. So because I didn't know that, I put it off for such a long time. And then I just started to get angry because I wasn't doing the thing that I really wanted to do. So I bought some equipment, and I knew that was going to be the first step. I was like, okay, this is going to be the first step. Buy the equipment. And it was a little Rodecaster, little like mixing board that I don't even use any now, but bought that, bought a microphone, bought a webcam, and it sat under my desk and taunted me for over a month before I finally called somebody and said, okay, I want to do this. I know you can help me. Can you please come and spend 30 minutes with me, getting me set up? I want to do this. I don't know how. They came and showed me once, and it became the simplest thing on the planet. And that was one thing that led me down this path of all of these other challenges that come up, all these other barriers that you put in your way. It just comes with repetition and really leaning into that. So if I'm coming up against something and you start getting and coming up against these upper limiting beliefs of, I can't do this, it's too much trouble, I don't know it, I don't understand it, I'm frustrated with it, whatever that may be, but I really want to get there. I really want to get across that line, just over that hurdle to the point where it doesn't feel like a challenge anymore. I know.
Do you think that was the primary reason when you were putting it off? Do you think that was a mindset issue? Do you think it was just like needing to acquire the skills? I once heard Russell Brunson say that every problem in life is a math problem or a drama problem. And a math problem is, I just need the path, I need the roadmap, I need the equation, and then I can get the answer. But a drama problem is a mindset issue. It's something in us that's causing us to push back against the solution path. Where do you feel like that was for you, and just even the amount of time it took to get the podcast started?
It was somewhere right down the middle. But I got to tell you that drama thing, right? There was that insecurity as well of, is this a good idea? Is this a good use of time? Is anybody ever going to listen? Is anybody going to ever want to come on the show? Do I even like the sound of my own voice? All of these things where if I was really confident and none of those voices were going on in my head, the equipment wouldn't have sat under my desk for over a month. I wouldn't have delayed doing it for a year. I would have done it much sooner. So there was definitely these mental barriers, which I've become more and more aware of as I start having those thoughts. And anybody that has those types of thoughts, I want to encourage them to listen to them, but just recognize them for what they are and know that on the other side of that, of just doing the thing, those thoughts become a distant memory. And they become a really good story to tell on a podcast, over coffee, over beer, or to somebody else that's maybe in the same position trying to do the same thing. The technical side was real too. Like that was something that I didn't know how to do. And I didn't feel confident doing it, but I knew that I needed to get it done. And then I read a wonderful book called Who Not How. And I picked that book back up again. And all of a sudden, I realized I don't need to know how to do this. As long as I can find somebody that I know that can show me, then all I need to know is that I am going to do this. And I can find that right person that's going to help me get set up, going to walk me through it, run me through an episode, and then I'll be on my own, and that'll work out. And that was a really powerful thing for me. I was like, you know what? That's right. I'm probably not going to do this and sit down and troubleshoot everything myself, but I do have a friend. I know a guy that can help me. I wonder if he can do it. Sit down here with me for a half hour. And sure enough, he loved helping people too. And he said, absolutely no problem. And he came and he sat down and he plugged in a few wires and got me podcasting. So,
and how many episodes have you done now on the Open Concept podcast? You've been doing it for a while.
Yeah, we're up to about 68 podcasts right now. We did 52 last year, and we're on plan to do another 100 this year. So
that's amazing, man.
Yeah. I plan to be at close to somewhere around the 150 range by the end of the year this year.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love even how you just laid that out. I was thinking, one of the ways that we connected was in Dan Martell's elite coaching program. And one of Dan's teachings is this framework he has called the achievement roadmap. And essentially, it's living with or starting with a vision and your goals and almost backward engineering them into daily actions that make that goal an inevitable part of your life. So they don't just stay ideas. But one of the steps in that process is called unlocking resources. And it sounds like you had the vision for the podcast and you just needed to unlock that resource. I think a lot of people get stuck there because they either think, oh, this idea I should be able to accomplish this idea on my own if it's supposed to be done. Like I'll be able to figure it out, as opposed to the route you took, which is why would I try to learn it all myself when I could simply pay or ask somebody who was already an expert to come in and show me, and then boom, I'm off to the races.
Yeah, if money can solve the problem, and I mean, one thing that Dan also says, I'll reference his name again because you're familiar with him. One of the things that he says is if money can solve the problem, it's not a real problem, because you can come up with some money, you can borrow money, you can get a loan, you can do whatever, and it's probably not a real problem. So if I
so many people would be so mad at that statement. Unpack for me and for people who are listening that are like, that's not true, Brandon. I know to unpack that, because I agree with you. And I think this is something people need to think about.
So if it's something that if it's a problem, in my case, it was a very small problem, right? It can be solved by money. It can be solved by paying somebody to come in and do the thing that I can't do, right? That can be solved. If somebody has a problem in their business that can't be solved with money, then you need to dig a little deeper. Not every problem can be solved with money, but I would challenge anybody that has a problem to look at that if they're faced with a problem, if they're faced with a challenge, and ask, can this be solved with money? And a lot of people will say, yeah, of course it can be solved with money. My project manager isn't happy. If I could pay him more money, he would be happy. My wife isn't happy. If I had more money and I could buy her a bigger house, she would be happy. We would be happy, whatever that may be. But you do need to dig a little deeper and ask if it really is money that is going to solve that issue, or if it's something deeper, right? In my case, I was like, yeah, I can. It's pretty straightforward. I can either figure this out on my own, or I can pay somebody to come and do this, and the issue is going to be solved, and there's not going to be any further issues that I need to deal with as far as money goes. In the case that, the examples that I used of, my staff or my spouse, not being happy and I need to go and make more money, that's probably not the root problem. So when I say if a problem can be solved with money, then it's identifying, one, is that true? How true is that? Is that something that I'm making up in my head? How much money is that actually going to require? Do I have the bandwidth to acquire it? Because if money can solve that, but the real problem is bandwidth of acquisition of that cash, then you have a resource problem, right? So we need to solve that problem first. But I would consider that most problems that can be solved with money aren't real problems. The problem that you may have is parting with that cash, investing in yourself, taking that leap to spend the money on the thing that you know is going to solve the problem, because seeing money in your bank account go down is a tough thing. So that may not be the real problem, right? The problem might be, why are you worried about investing into yourself if you think that this is a good idea?
I love that. I love that, because even if I look at some of the wealthiest people in the world, if I was to sit down and ask them, do you have problems? They have problems, right? And I think oftentimes the surface of the problem might look like it's a financial issue, but I love what you said. It's a resource issue. A problem in your marriage, a problem with a sick family member, those are problems. But if it's simply a resource issue, and you are tenacious and you're motivated, you will figure out how to do it. You will figure out what is needed in order to acquire that resource. I love this even just in a coaching space, because part of coaching is investment. And a cheap coaching product that communicates value, like, oh wow, this is probably not very value if it's a $50 product, right? So most coaches in our space, they're high ticket items. But what I have found is that people that push back the most against the price, and this, I actually got roasted on TikTok for saying this. This only video I've had that's ever hit like 150,000 views or whatever. It like in the first 48 hours, it hit 75K views. It was just like hundreds of comments.
Yeah.
Because I talked about actually trying to dig into our customers' reason for saying no to us. And that is probably not a price problem. It's probably a value problem. And it's a packaging problem on our end if we're selling something of value. And I think most of the objections I get from folks that talk about pricing, especially when I know I'm fairly priced and I'm not astronomical, always has to come down to the problem they have in spending that money or the scarcity mindset they have in regards to quote unquote losing that money, as opposed to a unlock resource way of thinking in which I see the very deep problem in my life. There's a resource here that can solve it, and I just need to trade resource for resource. And I know once I get this, I'm going to be able to catapult past my problem. That's not the same level of a problem as a marital problem or a sick family member. And when we equate those, we just say like our life is full of problems. A lot of times we allow those things to eat up brain space in our mind that shouldn't. Those should be quick decisions. Like I'm a firm believer that there's only 3 types of problems in your life, or 3 types of decisions that you need to make in your life. They're 10-second decisions, 10-minute decisions, or 10-hour decisions. So like, is this something I need to sleep on for the night and then make a decision? To me, those aren't problems. They're just like, how much time do I need to ensure that I'm making a wise decision? Problems are things that could take whole life seasons. They could take years. Something small like that can be solved by a resource should be a quick answer, quick decision. And if you're motivated, it's amazing what you can do.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I share that, right? If somebody had said, I have a Lamborghini for you, here you go. It's all yours. All I need you to do is pay me $1,000. That's it. Not monthly payments. It's all yours, but I need you to wire transfer me $1,000. Probably 11 out of 10 people would say, that sounds great. That sounds like an awesome deal. I get a Lamborghini for $1,000. That's a no-brainer. But if you ask them to spend $1,000 a month on a coaching program, or $1,000 on a month over month, year over year, on a program that is going to continue to help them, they may say no, because they just may not see that value. And there's a risk reward battle that's going on in your head too, right? Reality is, if somebody's going to be paying $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month for a coaching program, they are unsure at that point what they are going to get in return. But they know that if they don't spend that money, they're going to have that extra money every month to help contribute to pay off their mortgage, to pay their rent, to buy their groceries. But there's risk involved in that they often they don't understand what that return is going to be. And like anything,
100%.
You can have the best coaches in the world, but if you yourself are not willing to do the work to make the thing happen, any of the answers that you need, you can probably find, if they're technical answers to a problem, somewhere on the internet. Someone will have a solution for you. That information will be out there, and that's going to be free. But if you are not the type of person that is able to really dig in, do the work that needs to be done, then that's not a money problem at that point. That becomes a confidence thing. Maybe it's a skill thing, right? Maybe you just need to harness and develop your skills, sharpen them to start building that confidence. Maybe it's not the right time. Maybe because you can't commit the time to the thing that you know needs to be done, because you're in a season where maybe you have little kids running around and you just know that things got to be on autopilot for a little bit. Maybe you got to be at home supporting the family. It may be a timing thing, but whatever that is, it does come down to value in that moment, perceived value of money being exchanged for knowledge, motivation, accountability, skills in return, right? And I think people know that, but there is a reality that people do have limited resources, or they have a belief that they have finite resources when it comes to spending, especially if they don't have an unlimited upside, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking to business owners that fundamentally do, if they continue building, have an unlimited upside versus somebody that is working for another company, maybe even at a frontline level, making $20 an hour, or a C-suite level executive that's making $400,000 a year. They're both going to have perceived levels of value, and parting with money is going to be a big thing for all of those people. We
Yeah.
renovating homes as an example. We go in and we renovate homes. For some people, $100,000 is a shitload of money. It's the most money that they're ever going to spend in their home. For other people, $1 million is a lot of money. It's the most money that they're ever going to spend in their home. For some people, they just want what they want. And they know that whatever we're going to deliver isn't really going to break the bank, and they just want what they want because they have the resources to get there. But there's still going to be a point where people fundamentally want to see value for the dollars that they spend. I know very few people that would just throw away money at nothing if they had zero return at all whatsoever, unless it's a very charitable case. But in that case, they see the value of the help that it's going to provide, or the resources that it's going to provide to maybe an association that they're well tied to, that they believe in, that's close to their heart. And for them, spending that money is going to be a really great thing.
Yeah, 100%.
That's, a lot of the coaching is really geared towards that, right? To continuing to build that confidence, to making sure that you become somebody that continues to have the confidence, to compound that confidence, to continue investing in yourself, so that you're going to be setting yourself up for an incredibly bright future. And you got to get past those hurdles, because even at the highest levels, right? Musk, Bezos, like, they're going to run up against complexity ceilings, and they're going to run up against new challenges that they've never come up with before. Even at that level of wealth, you're still going to come up with problems.
Yeah, challenges in life is not an option. There's no level of success that's going to remove those challenges. One of the things I love you're saying about just even comparing the 100,000 to the $1 million investment. What's great about that is, regardless of the number, the feeling is still the same. Like, oh my gosh, this is a ton. Like, the metrics change, but the feeling is congruent across, those economic levels. And it's a common thread, which then I start thinking that there aren't solution paths in regards to your mindset that are like for the wealthy or for the poor. They're just human. Like, there are things we need to work on as people in regards to our thinking, because our struggles are essentially the same. We just may have different level of resources to that we're dealing with. I remember working for a very wealthy individual in my early 20s. He had a company that owned the patent and manufactured hip implants. Okay. Pulling in multiple millions a month in personal income. The most affluent person I'd ever been in proximity to, really close proximity. And because I was close in proximity, I saw that there were still problems. And honestly, there were some problems that I wouldn't trade my non-millions per month to get in exchange. I was happy to not have some of those problems. And I think even when this maybe is a good segue into, I wanted some of your insight into like founder dependency or hustle culture. There is oftentimes a drive in us to either search for control in our company or in our business or in our life, or so you can either look at control from a top-down perspective, like, I got to hold all the puppet strings in order to make everything work. Or there's the other avenue of control is hustle. Like, if I just work hard enough and I just do enough, I'll be able to control outcome. I think what's interesting is that the reality is, in both of those areas, that we're selling ourselves a sense of safety, that we can control the outcome. which ends up actually killing us because both living in this place of puppeteering and my business is so dependent on me, or hey, I'm just going to be a workaholic forever, both of those almost lead to the same end, which is arriving at the conclusion that actually I can't really control the outcomes. And in the process, I just burned myself into the ground trying to do something that was never going to happen.
If you can control your time, you are off to a wildly good start ahead of so many other people. And that's how I look at it now. Before, for a long time, very much tied to the outcome, right? Whatever the outcome was. And generally that outcome is on a P&L sheet at the end of the year, right? That was the outcome that was hunting down. And I think it's like, it's still a valid number on the scorecard, right? Still measure it, still work hard to make it happen. But as you begin to mature in business, you become wildly aware of your time, your activities, and you can control your activities, right? You can't necessarily control time. In fact, you can't. Time is going to disappear whether you want it to or not, but you can control your activities. And I wanted to be more in control of the activities that really lit me up and that I knew that only I could perform. And if somebody else could perform it, then my job was to put that person in place and make sure that they were able to perform that at a level that was certainly better than I could. I mean, every carpenter that we have on staff right now, I'm a ticketed carpenter by trade. Every carpenter that we have on staff right now is a better carpenter than I am. Right? Our project managers, better project managers than me, right? At this point. And I'm very proud of that. I'm very proud of them. And I know that there's things that I contribute to the business that is my zone of genius. And I will continue working on, and I will continue trying to spend as much time in that zone as humanly possible. And you still get brought down to, every once in a while to have to deal with things that you don't want to. And every day there's going to be a couple problems that need to be solved. But at the end of the day, John, like I was having this conversation yesterday, we asked for these problems. Maybe it comes a little different, right? It's packaged a little differently. It's presented to you. It gets dropped on your lap in a different format than maybe what you expected. But we asked for these problems. We asked for challenges in our life because we asked to become a better version of ourselves. And that does not come without those challenges. And so if we are asking for strength, then we are going to have moments of weakness so that we can define that strength. If we're asking for clarity, then we are going to have to find ourselves in moments of chaos, right? If we're asking for the words to say that may need to be said, then you're going to have to fumble on your words here and there and maybe not have the conversations at the time that you know is right, so that you do know when it is right when you have those conversations.
Yeah. No, I love that. I'm interested to hear your take on this. I almost think that every prop, so if I'm looking at those two issues that we see a lot in businesses, the hustle culture or the trap of founder dependency, I think our life exists in like three spheres. We have like our self, our sense of self, our emotional health, our physical health, our mental health, our mindset health. Immediately after that is like our immediate relationships that have both our love and our sacrifice embedded in, like the people I care about, the people I serve. And then underneath that, I have work. And I almost feel like every issue I see that's happening in the marketplace or in the business, I have to trace all the way back up to me. Where like oftentimes I see people trying to optimize their way out of the business being dependent upon them, or like not being burnt out by hustling. But the question I usually want to go to first is, well, what exists in you that has a lack of humility that is keeping you from hiring people who are better than you? Because that's where the problem really is you are coming into the workplace trying to prove something. You're not coming in as a giver, you're coming as a taker. I need this. And so, well, that's why the business is dependent upon you, because your own internal drive to prove yourself and to be the best person and to be seen well by others is keeping you from sitting across the interview table from somebody who could run circles around you in an area of expertise. And you're threatened by it, even subconsciously, you're threatened by that level of greatness because it's a bright star next to your little lamp, right? So the problem's way higher. Or even with hustle culture, it's like you don't have a problem with like, man, I just love to work and I got to have boundaries. No, you have a problem with running away from things in your life that you're filling work with. Like people that can't sit still when they're at home with their kids, I really want to challenge them and be like, you don't love your kids very much. We place what is valuable in our life, we place our time with. And at the end of our life, if we were going to write our eulogy, our ideal eulogy of what we want people to say about us, regardless of what we write there, nobody at your funeral is going to talk about how amazing it was that you worked 80-hour weeks. What's going to be sad is that your kids may not have a lot of memories with you to hold on to.
They may not even show up.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. And so I even think like in those two areas, like that's where my brain goes is where can I trace that problem? It's not an optimization issue. It's a personhood issue that's just trickling its way down and revealing itself in a different area entirely.
First point, right? Bringing somebody on that founder dependency problem. So I think there's a couple key issues that are real issues that people typically have. One is a sense of you bring somebody on that is more experienced than you in an area. There's always an understanding of most people would say, I would love that. And I would argue that most people would say, I need somebody in here that's better than me. The problem is you are not doing anything to attract that person. That person may not want to come and work for you if they don't understand the vision. But there is a reason why people get involved in startup companies, right? That don't have a great track record. They haven't been around a long time, and they're willing to risk it and get involved in this because they see the potential upside. They see the potential vision, buy into where this company is going, what it is doing, what the services that it's providing, whatever it is, but they see opportunity. So you as a founder need to be able to create that opportunity. So that would be step one, right? Is that vision piece, being able to paint a vision that is compelling enough to attract that person. The second thing is there's a fear that if somebody comes into the business, I may have sold them on the vision, but they're going to start to understand that our operation maybe kind of sucks. And they're going to get in and I'm afraid to open up the hood and show them what it looks like because it's really messy and it's not something that I'm proud of. That's probably an indication that you need to clean up your house, right? It's probably an indication that there are things that need to be refined if you're feeling that way. Now, can that be also solved with money? Some of it, right? You can hire those people and be upfront and say, like, this is where we're doing really well. This is actually part of why we're bringing you on is because we need this cleaned up. We know this. Like, this is what you're here for. Show me how to do that. Whatever that might be related to. But there's a fear of that, right? Because as business owners, you're really proud of what it is that you've built, generally on the outside, right? If you've been around a few years, you have a decent brand, you have people in the community that are saying good things. They've heard good things about the company, but they don't know anything behind the scenes. They don't understand any of the internal politics going on. Mm-hmm. All they see is what is being delivered to them. And if the foundation is cracked, somebody else comes in, it's just going to be adding more weight to that foundation and it will continue to crack. So need to patch up the foundation. But there is a real fear there that if we bring somebody in that is more qualified, then they are going to see the cracks in the foundation and they're going to get scared and they're going to run away. Now,
or they're going to judge us in our leadership.
But I think if you are hiring that person and you are upfront with it, whatever their role looks like, and you say, this is the area that I know confidently we are very, very strong at. We're bringing you on because this is our plan. Right now, It needs to be fixed. We're very hyper aware of that. It is ongoing. This is how you're going to play a part in helping us fix that. Then that is a pretty straightforward conversation to have, because let's be honest, no business has it all figured out. No
Yeah.
business has an absolutely
Yeah.
perfect playbook, right? If you're continuing to grow as a company, your playbooks are going to continue to break every year, right? Like there's going to be new processes that you're going to need to implement all the time. So that is going to be ongoing. But being upfront of where you are. Second or third is onboarding, right? And the founder doesn't have the time to onboard that person properly, feels like they don't have anything in place, whether that's a first day checklist, first week, first 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. They don't feel like they have a plan. But I can tell you over the years, in my experience, that every time I've brought somebody on, every time that I've made a new hire in the company, I make sure that that onboarding process is the best onboarding process that I've ever run or that our team has ever run. And we have every time somebody new comes on, it's a forcing function that forces you to step up and do the thing even better. And 2 nights ago, I put on a workshop. It was an AI workshop for a local business association. I'm not a self-proclaimed AI guy, but I knew I knew enough that I was able to meet these people where they were and give them what they needed. And I knew that because I'm not an AI guy, I know I'm not super technical, right? There was 2 of us. I gave an hour-long presentation and another gentleman gave an hour-long presentation. He's very technical. In fact, he has a technology company, right? I don't. Now, I walked away after my hour presentation. Every single one of those people that were there told me how powerful they thought it was, how much they got out of it, how useful it was. And because I put myself in that position, that was going to be kind of uncomfortable talking about something that's pretty new to me, but I knew I was going to be able to meet them where they were. And I knew because I had put that forcing function in place, it was going to force me to get overly prepared, to make sure that I was really putting in the work, to make sure that it wasn't a flop, because the last thing I wanted was for them to come out, waste an hour of their time, and then everybody at the workshop leaves and talks about how shitty that was. And that's the last thing I want. But I was willing to agree to do this, to set it up and say, yes, absolutely, I will be there. And by doing that, it gave me some time, but it forced me to prepare as much as I could to make sure that on that night I was going to absolutely knock it out of the park. And Jonathan, I absolutely did.
I love it.
That's not cockiness, but that is the power of being prepared. And so that is what I'm telling people. If you are considering hiring on somebody that is more qualified than you do not be afraid. Hire them with confidence. You're going to have a bit of time before they start. So just make sure that the day that they walk into your office or the day that you meet them on site or whether it's the first Zoom call if it's remote, just make sure that you deliver in a very impactful way, and they will go home to their family and they ask them how that first day went, how that first week went, and they will say to them, it went really well. We have a few things to sort out, but I'm very excited. I see the opportunity to be here, and they are bought in.
Yeah.
So founder dependency, back to that, there's a few things that my experience over time, I encourage people to consider. That second piece, the hustle culture, right? I would argue that if you ask anybody, they're not going to tell you, I don't love my kids, right? Anybody that's on the phone, including myself, right? I get caught up on time, like, fitting stuff in at the cracks, or, you catch yourself sitting on the couch, kids are maybe, playing on the ground or watching TV or something, and you get caught on your phone and you're sending a couple of messages and doing that because you think nobody's really going to notice, or you think you want to get it done. I'd argue that nobody's going to tell you that they don't love their kids, right? They will fight tooth and nail and say, you're absolutely
100%.
insane. I just need to get this done, right? It was the right time. I just needed to get this done. So to them, I would absolutely say, I know you don't hate your kids. Do your kids know that? If they were to be told, did they understand that? And there's always going to be blips in life, right? Where calls do need to be answered, right? Emails need to be answered. There are emergencies that are going to pop up. And that is one thing that we consider as business owners. Now, how you utilize that time is really going to be up to you, right? But as a business owner, we didn't get into business to drive our families crazy. We got into business to provide opportunity, generally for ourselves, for our family, for our community, whatever that is. But if the opportunity that you are building on is really only for you, if it's moving things in the opposite direction, if it's not pushing progress forward for your family, then that becomes a problem. And the other thing is so many people will end up justifying it, right? We have a way, like our frontal lobe has a way of justifying just about anything that we want to hear to get the answer that we want.
Oh yeah.
Right. So if you are on your phone, you're answering text messages that don't need to be answered, and your wife asks you or your kids ask you, Dad, do you need to be doing that right now? And your answer is yes. Like I have to do this. It's for the better of the family, because if I answer this one text message, then that means that it's going to provide better opportunity for the family. Chances are that's probably not true. Right. But we can talk ourselves into justifying it to make it true. And the first sale is always going to be to yourself. And we're really great salespeople to ourselves a lot of times when it comes to that type of thing.
What value do you think is existing in that practice that we're so fiercely defending doing? Like, what is the value proposition there for us in that moment? So like, I can use my own life as an example. There have definitely been times, I'm sure there's in the past week, I drive my daughter to school every single day. It's like one of our times. And I remember, gosh, I think it was last week, I was listening to a training or something, and she said, "Can we just talk?" She asked me that, and I was like, "No, let me just finish this." And that's what is coming to my mind when you're saying this, because I obviously agree with everything you're saying, and believe that we're making a statement of value whenever we choose where to put our time. What do you think is happening inside our minds in that moment? What do you think? What's the magnet that's pulling us in that direction that we're needing to sell ourselves on rather than choosing a different path?
I think we shoulder a lot of responsibility, right? I think as business owners, no doubt we shoulder responsibility, right? We have a responsibility to continue learning, right? To continue consuming knowledge, to continue sharing knowledge, to actually sit at an office or throw a tool belt on and go to a job site and work. Now, a lot of situations, right? A lot of people that work for companies, they don't have to go through what you're going through, right? They get that ability to go home at the end of the day and shut things off. And if they don't show up to work the next day, then somebody else will deal with whatever they were dealing with. As a business owner, right, you expand. And if you look at that circle, right, that circle where it's you in the middle, you're responsible for you first, right, to make sure that you're taking care of your health, your mind. Otherwise, you cannot provide in the way that you need to. The outside circle beyond that is going to be generally your family, right? Beyond that is going to be a close circle of friends, maybe 5 friends, 10 friends that you feel responsible for. Beyond that might be your company. Beyond that might be the sense of your local community. And beyond that, you start pushing the limits. That could be nations, right? Multinational, circles of people that are depending on you, the Tony Robbinses of the world.
Mm-hmm.
So as you go through that, you have this responsibility, and it is trying to find that time, because if you have a responsibility to other people to execute, to show up with energy, there's little bits like that is going to tend to sprinkle into that smaller circle, being you, being your family at times. And that's really going to be an ongoing challenge as you continue to grow. And I think if you are aware of it, that's a really good place to start. And I think that that's really, so you ask me where that comes from, right? What's going on in our minds where we know like
Yeah.
we shouldn't just be we shouldn't be listening to this thing. We shouldn't be sending this text message. We shouldn't be answering this call at dinner time. We should be sitting with our family, but you feel this pull to do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a sense of responsibility. It's a sense of lack, right? It's a sense of not wanting to fail, right? When I say lack, I mean there's a real fear for a lot of people that if they don't take that phone call, if they don't listen to that podcast, if they don't listen to this course right now, they're not going to have time to do it. It's not going to get done. And something is going to collapse, and they don't want anything to collapse. Right. So there's
Yeah.
a sense of lack that's going on. It's going to be very different for everybody, but generally, I believe it to be those few things. Could be excitement too. Like it could be momentum, right? Like how often have you been in like a really awesome space and just time doesn't exist, or you're working on a new initiative and like everything is going well and you're super excited and you come home and you want to tell your wife and you're firing on all cylinders and you're sending messages back and forth
Yeah.
and doing the thing and things are coming together and your wife's like, just stop. I need you to help me with dinner.
Yeah.
I don't care about any of that. You're like, I don't want to stop. Like things are moving. If I stop, the momentum's going to slow down. Right. And I'm not going to get this flow state back. And I've fought for it and now it's here. And I don't know. Those then that become a communication thing too. Right. I know my wife has the same thing, but I tell her, I'm like, if she sees me, we've had enough, conversations. I've been getting pretty good at it where if she catches me on my phone at a time that she doesn't want me on my phone, she will ask me if it's important. And and that's like a trigger right there. And if I know it's not important, I can check in with myself. I'll put down my phone. If I say it is, yes, it is important, then I know I got to get up, go outside, go to the space in the backyard, have that phone call. So I don't give that impression to my kids that the phone call is more important than dinner time with the family. But they do know that if I am out there, if I am handling it, then at least they know that it is important and they respect that time.
I love that. I love how practical that is. That's great. Having a trigger word, that a good question that doesn't put you in a state of defense, but causes you to think about what you're doing. I think that's probably been. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, no, it goes through everybody's mind. And it's not, again, it's not perfect, right? Because you are going to, at different stages of time, there's going to be different things that are going on in your world. There are going to be calls, problems coming up that you've never had to deal with before. So if something does come across your table, it's kind of like, I've never dealt with this before. If it's the same phone call that you get from an employee every night at 5 p.m. and you know what that's going to be, then okay, I can put that aside. I don't have to answer that call, right? But if it's new phone calls coming in or a new problem that's been solved, you don't know enough to really let it go. So you need to explore that, because there's this fear that if you don't explore it, then it is going to start to interrupt all the things that you do have under control.
Yeah. No, that's super helpful. I think one of the ways I've been trying to notice in me in regards to this specific issue is how I handle the interruption. So if the interruption of me watching the training or being on my phone results in a frustration or a desire to like snap back and self-justify, I think I've been trying to take that captive and say, why am I reacting that way? Like if I'm feeling good, it's like let's say I'm in the zone and somebody interrupts me, like that doesn't lead me to a negative emotion. Usually I'm like, oh hey, well, yeah, well, sorry, I was lost in this for a second. It doesn't, my excitement and my happiness doesn't end at the interruption. It just kind of like pulls me out of it for a second. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm sorry, I was super into that. But if my reaction is like anger or frustration or a deep sense of like justify, yeah, it is important, then I'm usually asking myself, what am I trying to get here? What well am I dipping my cup in here that I'm feeling is threatened by pulling out of this task? Kind of going back to those three circles that I think of. I like thinking it and teaching it within the concept of a cup, saucer, plate. Like your cup is you, saucer is like your family, your familial relationships, your plates, your work. And that it works best when if you're pouring water into them, pouring energy and effort and receiving, it works best with them in that sequence. The cup overflows, and that overflows into your family relationships. And the overflow of that flows into your legacy, your leadership, your work relationships. But whenever you reorganize the plates or the cup, all of a sudden you're creating a sacrifice somewhere in order for something else to be filled. So if I take that plate off the bottom and I say like work is the most important thing, and I put that up, no matter how I organize the cup and the saucer underneath, I'm starving me and I'm starving my family. Or some people are like super givers and they're like, you know what? It's my family. That's so important. They put that saucer at first, and then they go to work and they're super givers too, right? Because they're like giving people, loyal people. So the overflow of the saucer goes into the plate, but underneath is the cup, and they're just completely dry, bone dry, right? And then they burn out. They don't know why. And I've been trying to notice that reaction to almost ask myself, like, what's my sequence right now? Like, am I living cup, saucer, plate, or am I elevating something that I'm wanting to pour into, but as a result, I'm starving everything else downstream? That's been, at least for me, how I've been trying to almost preach to myself when I'm in a space of feeling anxious, or like I need to give a justification for why I'm doing this and why this requires me to steal time away from my kids. I love what you said earlier. Who I want to be at my funeral, who I want to know how much daddy loved for them and cared for them, who they don't need to know the complexities and intricacies of running a business. They just need to know they're loved, right? And that's been maybe a helpful process for me in this season of my life.
Yeah. No, I really do, right? It's a very tangible way to look at not just responsibilities, but priorities.
Yeah.
And I do believe that so many people, so many good people, caring people, loving people, they will do so much more for other people than they will do for themselves, right? And we chalk that up as honorable, right? There's a lot of great people that do that now, and I think that, you know, men and women, but I think women especially will tend to do that, right? They're caring. Like I know my wife, for example, she will, and she's getting better at it, believe me, but she will go out of her way to do so much for so many other people, right? And be so accommodating for other people's needs and put everybody else first. But that starts to, over time, harness resentment. It also starts to harness excuses, right? If you are a business owner, or you are somebody that's in a position that is trying to advance in a career, in a job, take a big leap, right? These are excuses that you can end up using, and back to the brain where you end up justifying these things to yourself. I couldn't go possibly do this for myself because all of these other people depend on me, right? And I'm not talking life or death circumstances, but I'm talking like comfort, right? So I have like, for example, I have a really good friend of mine. I was out for a run with her this morning, actually, and she started a very cool company. And this company was it was basically inserts for swings and strollers, and it was called Swing Thing for little kids. Very like colorful things, strap on for the seats that kids could go and sit in swings on, or go into
Very cool.
strollers and buggies at the shopping cart, be strapped in, not flop around, be comfortable, look cool. Like she started this really amazing company. And she's also a, what's the term? Not executive assistant, educational assistant at a school. And I keep encouraging her to go after this company that she built, that she was so proud of, that has now disappeared, right? She's got stock of this stuff, but she can't get out. She can't do that thing. And I keep asking her, I'm like, why? She says, oh, well, these kids need me. They look up to me. And my girls, you know, she coaches their soccer and baseball and stuff like that too. And she's stressed out by it. She we talk about it. She's like, I don't want to be here. I don't make any money doing it. I have to do it. It messes with my sleep, but these kids want me. They want me there. And I get it, but I'm like, they will love you for you. They will get another coach. And my other thing is like, digging a little deeper to this, why don't you go and you start this business? And let's role play this here for a second, right? Think about this. If you were to build this business, how many people could you help? Because you seem like the type of money, I'm talking to her, right? You seem like the type of person that if you had more money, you would do great things with it. Do you agree? Yeah, of course, I would do awesome things. All right. Well, you go and you start this business. How many products are you going to be able to sell? Thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Well, you're starting to play a part in their life in giving them a product and safety that they didn't actually have. They didn't know that it was there. Are you going to be able to employ people? Yeah. Cool. Are you going to be able to employ women? Yeah. Are you going to be able to build a team that is going to inspire other young women to do something, to follow their dreams, to follow their hopes, their passions, and do something creative? Yeah. Are you able to take these things, recycle them, repackage them, build up a whole ecosystem of women locally, maybe single moms that need to make a bit of extra money, and they can work for you, have a good time, have a good culture, feel proud about what they're doing at the end of the day, go back to their family full with, of joy and confidence because they know that they've contributed doing something that they, where I'm going with this. I'm like, yeah, you go and you do this thing. That impact that you're talking about having, it can radiate.
Yeah.
Right. But we use this excuse out of fear, and we find ways to justify not doing the thing to ourselves. And for the most part, our brain does a pretty good job of telling us why we should do something or why we shouldn't do something, and being okay with that. When the heart is telling you maybe something different, but you start seeing signs of that.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You start seeing signs of like physical illness when you're living in that space for too long, when you start feeling too much tension. Right. I did that for a long time.
Yeah.
I had, bumps that formed on my head, and it turned out what was it? Follows the nervous system. Shingles. I had shingles. When I was stressed, I was doing the thing, like I was in a relationship that I knew I shouldn't be in, like work was stressed out, like everything was kind of going on, and started seeing just like it's showing on my head. And it kind of like started with a little bump, and then it kind of worked its way down to my eye and followed my nervous system. And that was just a sign, a physical sign that something was off, something was misaligned, that I wasn't being true to what it is that I knew that needed to be done. And this chain, like I got this gold chain on right now that my girls got me for my birthday. And I looked at that and I was like, I always wanted one, right? When the time I was a kid, but I never had money for gold chains. You buy like the $10 kind of knockoffs, or like one, you rock that for a little while and think you're kind of cool. Necklaces, or the puka shells and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's a whole other story.
We're in the same generation. I remember the puka shells.
Whether it's finally at a point I had I was given this gold chain because I told my wife at some point, like I'd always wanted one, but there was always this little kid that never had it. Thought it would be kind of weird. I put it on, still like felt kind of weird, slept with it on for a few nights. And I decided that I wanted to have that represent the person that I was stepping into becoming. Right? It was a sense of transformation. It was a sense of, all right, every time I look at that thing, I know I'm going to be having the conversations that need to be having. It's just a reminder. I was talking to a good friend of mine, Dr. Mo. She was on the podcast yesterday, and she's got a tattoo on her arm that says stand. And that's a reminder for her, right? To, if something comes up, to make sure that she's standing in her space, standing in that energy, standing in where she knows that she needs to be. And the energy will be created around her. But yeah, it's like there are real physical ailments that can come up that people can visually see, let alone the things that people can't see that's going on, the inner turmoil, if you are not doing the thing that you are meant to be doing.
Yeah, those are great indicators to help us take stock of where we are. I'm sure this isn't the case with your friend, But one of the things I even think about when I hear something like that is, do they need you or do you need them?
Mm.
Because if they knew the turmoil, the sleepless nights, the hard stuff that you're going through, would they want that for you? If they wouldn't want that for you, they'd be like, no, 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 don't, I don't need you to experience that for me. Then to me, the equation is actually inverse. It's not that somebody needs you, it's that you need them. You need to be needed in order to feel complete. You need to be needed in order to feel like your life has meaning. And stepping away from that is actually stepping away from a sense of self, a sense of being that you're deriving from that. So stepping away isn't just like, oh, I'm going to try this new courageous thing. It means actually like I'm losing part of myself that's been affirming my need, right? Like I'm stripping away this food, this emotional food from me. I'm fasting from that. And that's not something that we want to do. Like subconsciously, we want to keep things in our life that are affirming our needs. And that's why I even just think that the metaphor of the cop susser play has been so helpful for me to think through like, hey, am I a full person? Like my kids need me to be full, but they also want me. Like my daughter wants daddy to be happy. Like she doesn't want a sad dad who's just a really good caregiver, but I'm just going to be miserable. Like my kids don't want that.
No, they want to see you smile. They want to see you laugh. They want that same kind of energy that you bring to a leadership meeting, right? They want that
Exactly.
same kind of energy. Like when you walk in the office at 9 a.m. or whatever time that is, and you have a Monday morning meeting or you're meeting with a client, you're bringing that energy, you're bringing that charisma. Like they want some of that too.
Yeah, I used to kind of say as part of my story that I came out of a really toxic job at the beginning of last year that I worked for 5 years. And it was the highest paying job, but I was the most miserable. And part of my story, I would say, is that I brought my best at the work and then brought home my leftovers to my family, my sloppy seconds. And as a result, the people at work thought they were like I was this amazing, like, oh my gosh, Jonathan gets so much done. He's so productive. And then at home, my family was like, man, dad is so exhausted. And it was like, wow, what was I really like? That wasn't an unconscious trade. Even if I wasn't articulating it to myself, I was willing to bring my best or bring my like most engaged self in that scenario because I was I was deriving some value from it. Oh wow, I got this position. Oh wow, I'm being paid well. And then at home, the way that I kind of put it really bluntly is I don't think I was acting with the same level of like that there was a return on investment of spending that same amount of energy at home. And that was not a reflection on my family, but on me and my own kind of bankruptcy of values that was occurring in that moment where I was much more willing to try and go get something out there than receive something that was freely given.
If you were to ask first, yeah, I love what you said there. There's a few things I want to add. First, I use the rear view mirror technique. When I get home and I pull into the driveway, right? I just default to looking in the rear view mirror in my truck and asking myself, who is the person that I want to be when I walk in that door? What is the energy that I need to bring to walk in that door? Right? It's just that quick reframe. I was interviewing a good friend of mine, and we were talking to one of his staff members, one of his key people. He's got a little tree outside the front door, and he just like before he walks in, he just touches the tree, and that's it. But it's like that instant reframe before he walks in, just to know, like, okay, we're going into the final quarter of the game here. Like, it's game time. This is where we got to win. But it sometimes does take that reframe because you often can be all consuming, and it will continue to leach into the evenings, to bedtime, to family time. And like, there's no doubt about it, right? People don't respect your inbox. They will continue sending you emails. How you handle that, whether you're answering it yourself or you have an assistant doing it, it doesn't really matter. Like, the fact is people will continue to send messages. Business will continue to come. The phone will continue ringing. People will try to continue to get a hold of you. And you have to decide if during that time you're gonna answer those phone calls, take that email, send that message. But that reframe, that immediate pull into the driveway, check in the rearview mirror, just that quick little check, that's often enough. A couple little things as well that I think is super powerful and has helped me. I generally will like wrap things up at the office. Like traditionally is like wrap things up at the office, make phone calls on my way home, pull into the driveway, still making calls, trying to finish the last call before I walk in. The family's kind of scrambling. And then I kind of like hanging up the phone as I walk through the door, as I say hi to my daughter and I'm here, and just hang it up in time. Like, hey, how was your day? Right. But there's no, like, that is where that phone call and what is going on in my mind is really being brought into the house. So I've been trying very diligently to, and you get in and you still feel like, man, I just need a minute. I just need a minute here. I need to decompress. I've had a bit of a day. I love all of you. I just need to go and spend some time in the bedroom or sit down in this chair. But that to your kids, to your wife, to your husband, is the first thing that they see of you when you get home. Mm-hmm. So they generally don't want you to come home in that state, right?
Yeah.
They know that if you are coming home, then the first thing that you're going to need is time away from them. You need to bring yourself back. And that's an instant sign that things aren't going well. So, little hack, either it's a drive home in silence, or at the end of the day, I shut down my laptop and I know if it's going to be 10 minutes, I can just sit quiet, not do anything, think, close the loops, jot down what I need to do the next day, whatever that is. But it's a sense of quiet. And I get that out. So by the time I get into my truck and I'm driving home, I'm already past that decompressed time that I needed.
Yeah.
You can show up in that house excited, and I'm driving faster to get home, and I want to be there and I want to walk in, and I've already gotten that time that I needed to sit back and relax for a second without them seeing it, without them becoming aware of it, because they ultimately,
I love that.
They need you. So that was another tactic that has been super valuable for me.
I love that. Maybe this will be a helpful segue into, or were you going to say, sorry?
I wanted to add one more point just for listeners out there that are still on this. If somebody was to ask, would you be willing to spend 20% of your time investing 20% of your time into your kids and into your family to ensure that they became the best people possible and they had the best opportunities moving forward, and that they developed the best, strongest relationships and formed into the best possible people that they could become, and all it took was 20% of your time? Most people would probably say, yeah, absolutely. Like, that's a very small part of my time. Like, all right, well, Saturday and Sunday work, right? 5 p.m. till 9 p.m. Does that work? And that's kind of that reframe, right? Like, you look at this return on investment, and I look at it as that now is, if I'm doing something, I'm spending time with my kids, I know, all right, I have 20% of my time generally where I'm going to be investing that time into my kids, and how I choose to invest that time, that 20%, it's either going to be good quality invested time or it's not.
Yeah.
But it's really not that much.
No. I think the reason why we think it's too much is, or we think it's requiring a lot, is because we're so just consumed in our own world that 10 minutes away from our, quote unquote job and the things that are quote unquote helping provide for my family, which they're really providing me identity, more than they're providing for my family, because I probably could cut back on that a good chunk of time and still get the same return on the investment.
The thing that the last thing I'll share here before we move on this topic is the one thing that I'm trying to deal with is less about answering the phone, is less about spending time in the email. It's It's more about having the conversations in my head while somebody else is trying to talk to me. I can't tell you, just having, being told, from a young age, you have ADD and
Mm-hmm.
all of this stuff. Like it's a thing. It's a real thing. So when my wife is talking to me, we'll be having a conversation and she'll stop mid sentence and continue to ask me, "Are you even listening? What did I just say?" You do that. Like, and I know she's going to be testing me now. I don't have a phone in front of me, but I'm not there. My mind is elsewhere. It's thinking of something else. Then I'm having a conversation with somebody in my mind. Um, that does continue to happen. Trying to be much more diligent about that. And it's the same thing. Even if she's having a conversation, I know that this is a very small percentage of my time that I want to be 100% invested into. But the mind does drift and nobody's perfect. And that will continue to happen probably
Oh,
in
yeah.
perpetuity for a long time.
Medicine's been helpful for me for my ADHD. Well, cool. This is actually a great segue into where I want to finish up, which is some rapid fire questions. Okay,
Let's
I'm going
go.
to give you 4 questions, and just like whatever your gut says, whatever you want to go with, we'll just go and spit it out. So here's the first question. So again, this podcast is for creative service professionals, videographers, photographers, musicians, course creators, coaches, people that use their creativity as part of their craft that they sell. What is one system that you think creative professionals should implement?
Podcast.
Okay.
I mean,
I
I
love
just
it.
think I think it's great for somebody that is, that is creative and somebody doesn't have anything going. I think a podcast is a great thing. It's a great opportunity. It allows you to be creative. It brings out certainly insecurities that you have in yourself. It's a great way to get in touch with people. It's a great way to stay connected. I think it's an awesome tool. I don't know if that's what the
I love
direction
it.
that you're thinking of as far as a
No, I
tool
think it's
goes.
great.
Oh
It's great
yeah.
for marketing too. It's like all of a sudden you have a 2-hour
Yeah.
conversation that you can use for marketing material. You know what's interesting? I just met somebody who his podcast is his top of funnel.
Yeah. A lot of
He
that's
literally
cool.
goes on LinkedIn. He invites people onto his podcast. He asks them a qualifying question as part of his outline. And then he follows up at the end. Hey, I heard, I saw you say this. I wondered if you'd be interested in hopping on a call and talking more about it.
Yeah.
I was just like, dude, that is hilarious. I'm not saying I recommend that, but that was probably the most creative use of a podcast I've. Okay, here's my next question. What is the biggest mistake you see founders make when they're trying to scale?
They try and do too much themselves. Yeah, undoubtedly. They're afraid of change. They try and implement things too quickly, too much at once, and they try and tackle it themselves because they don't have the infrastructure. So they start projects, start initiatives that never get completed. That kicks off that their team starts questioning what is actually a priority and what is not. Because we're being told at so many different times, this is a priority. Now this is a priority. Now this is a priority, and nothing is very clear. That would be the biggest thing.
I love that. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of stock placed in optimizing rather than just distributing.
We talk about AI a lot. I talk a lot about AI with so many people on podcasts, and I watch these chats, and people are like, "Well, can we use this program? Like, if we build out the open claw, it can do this, and it can go in to the connect it with an agent that can go into N8N that can plug into our project management system that can update the schedule for us." I'm just like, you not just go in, like, you need somebody to run that and like actually verify that the schedule needs to be updated. You just go into the system and shift it and move it down a day. Like, doesn't that seem easier than paying money for all of these programs? So like you're making 8 steps out of what could be one.
Yeah, you're making spider webs. You're not creating a system.
And it's probably not going to be accurate. Like I had this like wild workflow that popped up on a group chat of mine that I'm in, and they were explaining all this stuff that they were implementing, and I was like, you still need somebody to do the thing. So why don't they just do the thing at the very beginning instead of doing everything back here to knock down the sequence of things that are inevitably going to break when when things start to change. Anyways, that
I
was
love
my
it. Yeah. But yeah, I feel you. Yeah. We're making things more complicated than they need to be for sure.
we
So
can. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah. And AI is just an excuse to be like, oh, I'm just going to optimize the crap out of my life. And then you end up spending more time optimizing than doing the life part.
It's a fine line, but you have to figure out what works. And what I tell people about AI for 2024, 2025, and even 2026, like 2026 is much more about implementing. 2025 was very much about exploration. And if you're not heavily involved in AI right now, at some level, like take 2026 to certainly explore, right? And
Learn.
map it out. What is going to work? Pay the subscriptions for the month. Go try it, implement, but like get familiar with it, but take what is actually going to be useful and discard what is useless. And that's what Bruce Lee says in that book right there.
I love it. Okay. So this podcast is called Wealthy Creative. Okay. That's actually the name of my coaching program. I'm curious, and I ask everybody who's on the podcast, how would you define like a wealthy entrepreneur or a wealthy creative? Where does your mind go when you hear those words put together?
Yeah, for me, when I think of wealth, I think of generational wealth, right? I think of a few buckets: health, wealth, love, and fulfillment, right? So when you hear that, as a well-rounded person, that is what we chase. So I define wealth because it kind of in that series, because it sort of rhymes. People can remember it. It means money, like money, abundance, but love, health, love, fulfillment, wealth. Those are kind of the key pillars that I aim to optimize.
Yeah, I love it. One of the reasons why I chose the word wealthy is this idea of like being in a place of plenty. That's what I think of when I think of wealth, is like an affluence that is like the place of plenty. And for a creative, I think oftentimes, or an entrepreneur, we can think of financial success or like business success as being the thing that drives wealth. But I just like am so convinced that you in order to be wealthy, you not only need like, sure, your mortgage is paid for. I mean, if your mortgage is paid for and you're paying off your bills and providing food for your kids, you're already wealthier than 99.9% of the world. But having a life that is providing income, that's also providing impact for other people, and at the same time giving you rest and margin. Like if those three things are in existence, like you are beyond wealthy. And if you're just optimizing for one of those, like you're either a dreamer who's broke, or you're a rich person who's miserable, or you're selflessly giving to people, but you are bankrupt when you get home. It's like all three of those things are needed to be able to be wealthy. But I'm always curious what we think of when we think of wealth,
I'd add to that as the fourth pillar, but the first in my sequence, which is health. And if we don't have our health, then none of that matters.
Yeah, I love that.
So for me, that becomes first. If I
love it.
Sick, the only thing that I need to do before I can think about anything else is not be sick. If I'm injured, the only thing that I need to do before I can do anything else is focus on recovery. So
very cool.
If you don't have your health, none of that else matters. None of that stuff matters.
Very true. Very true. Being healthy is a gift, but it's also something to steward. This is my last question. What is the best piece of advice you've ever received regarding leadership? And the more practical you can be, the better.
Clouds and dirt.
Tell me more.
Clouds and dirt was a concept I first heard through Gary Vaynerchuk that always resonated with me. And it's this understanding that sometimes as a business owner, sometimes as a leader, we need to spend time in the clouds, right? We need to spend time looking at the future. We need to spend time looking at the horizon, looking at the big picture, looking at everything from above. And sometimes, man, you just need to get down in the fucking dirt.
Reality.
Some days are just dirt days. Some weeks are just dirt weeks. And it's not a bad thing. It's just some days you got to spend up in the clouds, get up there. But if you spend too much time out there, you lose an understanding of the reality of what is down below. Sure, you can see it all, but you miss the nuances. So you got to get back down into the dirt every once in a while.
I love that dirt days.
Yeah. So I'll ask. I had a good call yesterday with a good friend of mine, and I was on my way home, and we were chit chatting, and he asked. He said, "How's your day?" I was like, Today was a dirt day." That just meant like having to do some of the stuff. You know what I mean? Like it just meant really having to get in there. It was like dealing with some stuff, talking with some guys on the front lines. I had to fire a client for the first time in 16 years. Like it was just, there was some stuff that just needed to be done that you don't really want to deal with, but sometimes you got to get down on the dirt.
That sounds like a dirt day.
It was a dirt day today.
That's awesome.
Today, we're in a lot more of the clouds. I'm here spending time with you. We're talking about the future. We're talking about creativity. We're talking about health, wealth, love, and fulfillment. It's a beautiful moment. So as much time in the clouds as I can, but I know this afternoon, man, I'm going to have to get a little dirty. There's some stuff that's just got to get done. And that will always be a thing. And don't be ashamed of that.
I love that, man. That's a great place to end. Where can folks find you if they want to keep up with you and see what the work you're doing?
Light me up on Instagram at Build with B Smith. I will be there. You can check us out also on Instagram at New Vision Projects if you are interested in building, renovating. LinkedIn, you'll find me there at Brandon Smith. Find my name, and I will be here. Answer any of those questions that you may have. Trade up coaching and consulting. If you own a trades home service business, find me on Instagram. Shoot me that message. DM me scale. I'll make sure that I connect with you, get you the resources that you need, because I am here rooting for you to win more than you ever know. I got you.
Awesome, man. And folks can also tune into your podcast, the Open Concept Podcast. So you're on YouTube. Are you on the other streaming platforms as well?
YouTube, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, podcast or cast something or other. Yeah, we're on a fun. Wherever it is that you listen to your favorite podcast,
you're there.
On there. Go check it out. The Open Concept Podcast. Yeah, tune in. We have a lot of fun. We shed some light. We share some love. It's it's an amazing podcast, and I'm very excited to be here as a guest on yours. And congratulations on launching this, getting it going. You're going to serve a ton of people, and I'm very excited to see where this continues to go, my friend.
Awesome. Well, Brandon, thank you so much, man. This was a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to more conversations in the future, brother.
Absolutely.